I first suspected something was wrong when Lisa started behaving differently. We had been married for over 2 decades, and her sudden shift was impossible to ignore. She began to distance herself emotionally, and our conversations, which once flowed effortlessly, became stilted and infrequent. Around this time, she had also become more secretive with her phone. Lisa had never been one to guard her phone so closely, but now she would take it everywhere, even to the bathroom. It felt like there was an invisible wall growing between us, one I couldn't see but could definitely feel. This change coincided with my increasing absences due to work. I had taken on a demanding job abroad, which kept me away from home for months at a time. The distance added to my unease, making it harder to address these red flags directly. I remember vividly the night my suspicions took a concrete form. Lisa had gone out, supposedly to buy groceries, but she came back hours later than expected. When she finally returned, she was evasive and irritable. I tried to brush it off, thinking maybe I was overreacting, but the nagging doubt in my mind wouldn't let go. As weeks turned into months, these incidents piled up. The straw that broke the camel's back was when I noticed her wearing her special lingerie, which she usually reserved for our private moments, but she wore it on an evening out with friends. That night, she left without telling me much about where she was going or who she was meeting. The whole situation felt off, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her outings than she let on. Determined to find out the truth, I started paying closer attention to her behavior and her interactions. I noticed a pattern in her messages and phone calls, particularly with a contact saved under a nondescript name. It was around this time I began to piece together the possibility that she was seeing someone else. In one of my trips back home, I decided to confront her about the growing distance between us. Instead of reassurance, her reaction was defensive and dismissive. She claimed I was overthinking and that her strange behavior was because of the stress of managing the house and taking care of my aging mother. Yet, her explanations did little to alleviate my concerns. In fact, they only added to the feeling that something was deeply wrong. This culminated in a heart-to-heart conversation during my last visit. I told her I was considering wrapping up my business abroad and moving back permanently, hoping this would rekindle our bond. But instead of relief, she seemed almost panicked at the idea. This reaction only confirmed my fears. Her reluctance to have me back home, coupled with the emotional and physical distance she maintained, pointed to one painful conclusion: VJ. There was someone else in her life. My suspicions were confirmed when I followed her one day. She had said she was visiting a friend, but I decided to check for myself. What I saw shattered any lingering doubts. She was with a man I didn't recognize, their body language and intimacy leaving no room for misinterpretation. The betrayal hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was left grappling with the reality of our fractured marriage. Confronting her about the affair was one of the hardest things I've ever done. She didn't deny it, and her confession left me feeling hollow and broken. She admitted to the affair, citing loneliness and my prolonged absences as reasons. While part of me could understand her feelings of isolation, it didn't make the betrayal any less painful. The days that followed were a blur of anger, sadness, and introspection. I questioned everything in our marriage, my decisions, and my ability to trust again. Ultimately, I decided to take the high road. I focused on rebuilding my life, one piece at a time, with the support of my children and close friends. Discovering Lisa's infidelity was the most gut-wrenching experience of my life, but it also became a turning point. It forced me to confront the issues in our marriage and within myself. Though the journey to healing was long and fraught with challenges, it also led to personal growth and a newfound sense of clarity about what I wanted in life and in a relationship. It wasn't long before the practicalities of the situation hit me. I had to think about our children, Nathan and Michael. Nathan had recently gone through his first heartbreak when his girlfriend cheated on him, so I knew this news would devastate him. Michael, being older and more resilient, might handle it better, but it would still be a significant blow. One evening, after much deliberation, I decided to break the news to them. I called Nathan and Michael into my office and laid everything out for them. I didn't hold back, telling them their mother had been cheating on me for over a year and that I would be filing for divorce soon. Nathan, already fragile from his own heartbreak, was especially devastated. Michael, though shocked, took it better and suggested Nathan stay with him for a while, which I agreed to. The hardest part was over. I began the meticulous process of moving my stuff out of the house with the help of my best friend Tom. I made a list of sensitive items and left him a spare key to grab things while Lisa and I were at work. Lisa didn't notice anything missing. I got a new phone and number and informed the necessary people, my friends Joey and Nina, my son's big sister, and my mother. Meanwhile, I kept up the pretense with Lisa, showing her small gestures of affection to keep her from suspecting anything. She was still emotionally involved with her affair partner, though not as intensely as before. I gathered every piece of data I had archived since discovering the affair: VJ call logs, texts, pictures, emails. I spent over $1,500 on supplies and printed everything out, organizing it into several binders. I boxed and gift-wrapped each binder, addressing them to her parents, siblings, HR department, where both she and her affair partner worked, and a few friends. On Christmas Eve, Lisa came home as usual, oblivious to what was about to happen. We spent the evening together, and she had no idea I'd stopped tracking her movements since the 18th. After she went to bed, I placed 3 binders on my side of the bed, with the divorce papers taped inside, and a note saying, "Merry Christmas." I left my old phone and lawyer's business card next to it, packed my things, and left the house for good. I went completely off the grid, ghosting Lisa. She hasn't blocked me on Facebook, so I keep tabs on her. The fallout was immediate and brutal. My packages reached everyone, and Lisa was getting crucified by her family and friends. Her youngest sister tore into her, her parents condemned her, and even my mother, who has a notorious mean streak, shredded her. Lisa was frantically trying to find me, but no one who knew would tell her. A mutual friend who worked with Lisa told me she and her affair partner were placed on administrative leave. She was likely heading into the new year unemployed. I felt no guilt. I had done right by Lisa for 23 years, giving her everything she wanted, only for her to betray me. The most I stood to lose was the house, a car, and possibly some alimony. But with the evidence of her adultery, that might be waived. On Christmas Day, I settled into my new apartment. My son's and Michael's girlfriend visited, bringing treats and making a nice meal. We had a long, heartfelt conversation, and it felt good to reconnect with them. My big sister also came over, bringing more goodies. It was the first time she'd seen her nephews in nearly a year. Having them around did me a world of good. Later that evening, I hung out with Joey and his wife, Claudia, had a few drinks, and went home. The following week, Nina texted me, asking if I was free. We met for dinner, and she confessed she had liked me since we were teenagers, but never had the chance to tell me. We decided to start seeing each other once my divorce was finalized, and that night, we ended up sleeping together. I felt no shame VJ Nina had been a better friend than Lisa ever was. When I met Lisa and her lawyer to discuss the divorce, it had been 2 weeks since I ghosted her. We agreed on a legal separation leading to an uncontested divorce. I would sell my half of the house to her, keep our respective vehicles, and maintain my cabin. Under the grounds of marital neglect, she wouldn't receive spousal support. Our son Nathan was free to choose whom to live with. Lisa tried to reconcile, but I shot her down. She wept, saying she never meant for the affair to go so far, and that she loved her affair partner because she thought I was cheating. She begged for forgiveness, and hoped we could start over someday. I told her this was the last time we would speak, and she needed to imagine her life without me. I explained that I had given her half of my life in unconditional love, but she chose to betray me. I told her I loved who she once was, but hated the person she had become. Her father called me that night, apologizing and praising me for always being a good man to his daughter. He was ashamed of her actions. Although I appreciated his support, I couldn't maintain a relationship with her family. I updated my relationship status on Facebook to divorced and laid everything out for those who asked. Nina was shocked at how quickly I moved forward, but I'd already been in the process when we talked. She came over and we spent another night together, talking until the early hours. I hadn't felt this connected to someone in a long time. Some people might think I moved on too quickly, but my marriage ended the day Lisa slept with her affair partner. I'm ready to start a new chapter with Nina. We plan to keep things quiet until the divorce is official. As for Lisa, I couldn't care less about what happens to her. She can have her affair partner for all I care. I'll get my money for the house over the next year, and aside from paying her a small amount for utilities until she finds a job, I'll never have to see or speak to her again. 2 weeks after ghosting Lisa, I got a call from her lawyer to discuss the divorce terms. I met with my attorney, and we agreed on an uncontested divorce on the grounds of Lisa's neglect. I was to sell my half of the house to her, keep our vehicles, and maintain my cabin. Lisa wouldn't receive spousal support, and Nathan could choose who he wanted to live with. On the day of the meeting, I showed up looking sharp, ready for anything. Lisa, on the other hand, looked like a wreck. Her lawyer presented terms of reconciliation, but I shot them down immediately. We finalized our agreement, with the only change being that I would pay her a small amount monthly for utilities until she found a job. She had enough savings to last a while, and I made enough that it wouldn't hurt me financially. After the meeting, Lisa chased me down and begged to talk. She broke down, crying and saying how sorry she was, claiming she never meant for the affair to go so far. I explained that I had given her half of my life and all my love, but she chose to betray me. I told her I loved who she once was, but hated who she'd become. There we were, on the sidewalk, Lisa making a scene with her tears. A few passers-by gave us curious looks, but I didn't care. I'd already destroyed her socially and professionally, and I needed to get the last bit of emotion out. I told her I didn't regret the 23 years we spent together, but regretted that she chose the easy way out. I turned and walked away. Jumping forward, there was a shocking turn of events. Lisa attempted to take her own life. I was informed by a mutual friend, one of the few who hadn't abandoned her after the affair was exposed. Lisa was found unconscious in our bedroom with empty pill bottles next to her. She was rushed to the ICU, in critical but stable condition. The doctors said she would likely survive, but would need significant mental health support. The friend begged me to come to the hospital, saying Lisa needed me. I refused, stating Lisa was no longer my problem. She chose to take the easy way out rather than face the consequences of her actions. I told the friend that Lisa's family could help her sort out the pieces, but I was done. My obligation to care for her ended the day we signed the separation agreement. I informed my sons about Lisa's condition, telling them they could choose to support her if they wanted. She was still their mother after all. They were taken aback by my stance, but respected it. News of Lisa's attempt spread, and suddenly, people who had condemned her were urging me to support her. Her affair partner tried to visit her in the hospital, but wasn't allowed because he wasn't family. I was being pressured to see Lisa, but I felt nothing for her anymore. I hadn't for a long time. I was aware that some would vilify me for not sympathizing with her, but I didn't care. As far as I was concerned, she got what she deserved. She chose to betray me and now had to face the consequences. Lisa's father informed me she'd been moved to the mental health wing and was conscious but lethargic. He told me she'd asked if I visited, and when he said no, she shut down. He said he'd only share further news if I asked, understanding my stance. I'd also scheduled counseling for Nathan to help him cope with everything. I just needed to get this off my chest. If anyone wanted to judge me for how I felt, I didn't care. After 23 years and 2 children, I realized I never really knew Lisa at all. Let her rot in the darkest pit of hell for all I cared. My obligation to her ended the day we signed the separation agreement. Despite the fallout, I tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy for Nathan and Michael. I focused on making my new apartment a home and settling into a new routine. Nathan stayed with Michael most of the time, but he visited often, and we had long conversations about everything that had happened. I encouraged him to go to counseling to help him process his feelings about his mother and her betrayal. One evening, while Nathan was visiting, he asked me about my plans with Nina. I explained that we were taking things slow and that she had been a good friend for a long time. He seemed to understand and supported my decision, even though it was still a bit strange for him to see me with someone other than his mother. During one of our visits, Nathan confided that he was struggling at school and having trouble concentrating. His grades were slipping, and he felt overwhelmed by everything going on. I reassured him that it was okay to feel that way, and that he should focus on taking care of himself. I promised to help him in any way I could, whether it was with schoolwork or just being there to talk. Meanwhile, Nina and I continued to see each other discreetly. We spent a lot of time together, getting to know each other in ways we hadn't before. Our connection deepened, and I found myself looking forward to our time together more and more. We went out to dinner, took long walks, and talked about our dreams and plans for the future. Nina had always been a source of comfort and stability for me, and now, more than ever, I needed that in my life. At the same time, Lisa's condition continued to improve, though she remained in the mental health wing of the hospital. Her family kept their distance from me, respecting my decision not to visit. Occasionally, I received updates from mutual friends, but I tried not to let it affect me. I had made my choice, and I was sticking to it. One day, while I was at work, I received a call from my lawyer. He informed me that Lisa had been served with the final divorce papers, and that we were on track for the divorce to be finalized in a few months. It was a relief to know that this chapter of my life was coming to an end, and that I could finally move on. To celebrate, I invited Nina over for dinner. We cooked together, laughed, and enjoyed each other's company. After dinner, we sat on the couch, talking about our future. Nina expressed her excitement about starting a new chapter with me and helping me rebuild my life. I felt a renewed sense of hope and determination to move forward. As the weeks passed, I focused on my work, my sons, and my budding relationship with Nina. Nathan and Michael continued to adjust to the new normal, and I did my best to support them. Nathan's grades began to improve, and he seemed to be finding his footing again. Michael was thriving, and his support for Nathan was unwavering. One afternoon, I received a call from Lisa's father. He wanted to meet and discuss a few things. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop, and I was apprehensive about what he might say. When we met, he looked weary but determined. He thanked me for taking care of Nathan and Michael and for being a good father. He apologized again for Lisa's actions and expressed his regret for how things had turned out. He then told me that Lisa was planning to move out of state once she was released from the hospital. She wanted to start fresh somewhere new and hoped that distance would help her heal. He asked if I would allow Nathan to visit her occasionally, and I agreed, as long as it was what Nathan wanted. I assured him that I would never stand in the way of Nathan's relationship with his mother, even though I wanted nothing to do with her. As we parted ways, I felt a sense of closure. I had done everything I could to protect my sons and ensure they had a stable future. Lisa's choices had led to the end of our marriage, but I was determined to move on and build a better life for myself and my children. The months passed, and the day of the final divorce hearing arrived. I dressed in my best suit and met my lawyer at the courthouse. Lisa was there with her lawyer, looking fragile but composed. We went through the formalities, and the judge granted the divorce. It was over. I left the courthouse with a sense of relief and finality. My new life was officially beginning. I called Nina to share the news, and she was overjoyed. We made plans to celebrate that evening with a quiet dinner at home. As we sat together that night, I reflected on everything that had happened: the betrayal, the heartbreak, and the long road to recovery. I had faced the darkest moments of my life and come out stronger on the other side. With Nina by my side and my son's support, I knew that I could handle whatever came next. In the weeks following the finalization of the divorce, I continued to focus on my new life. I made more improvements to my apartment, turning it into a space that truly felt like home. I reconnected with old friends and made new ones, building a support network that helped me stay grounded. Nina and I decided to make our relationship official. We announced it to our close friends and family, who were supportive and happy for us. Nathan and Michael took the news well, seeing how much happier I was with Nina. Our relationship grew stronger every day, and I felt a deep sense of gratitude for having her in my life. Life was far from perfect, but it was moving in the right direction. I had faced the worst and come out stronger, ready to embrace whatever the future held. With Nina by my side and my son's support, I was confident that we would navigate any challenges together. Despite the divorce being finalized, there was still the matter of Lisa's recovery and her plan to move out of state. Nathan expressed mixed feelings about his mother's decision. On one hand, he was angry and hurt by her betrayal, but on the other hand, he was worried about her well-being. We had several long talks about his feelings, and I encouraged him to continue counseling to help him navigate this complicated emotional terrain. Nathan decided he wanted to visit his mother before she moved. I supported his decision and arranged for him to stay with her for a few days. Michael offered to drive him to the hospital, and they both spent time with her. Nathan later told me that the visit was emotional but necessary. He needed to see her and say goodbye properly, even if their relationship was strained. Lisa's move out of state went smoothly. Her family helped her settle into a new place, and she began to rebuild her life. We maintained minimal contact, communicating only about matters concerning Nathan and Michael. I kept my distance, focusing on my new life with Nina. The first year after the divorce was a period of tremendous growth and healing. I poured myself into my work, took up new hobbies, and spent as much time as possible with my sons. Nathan graduated from high school and decided to attend a local college, which made me proud. Michael continued to thrive in his job and relationship, providing a solid support system for Nathan. Nina and I took our relationship to the next level. We started talking about moving in together and even discussed the possibility of marriage down the line. She became an integral part of my life, and her presence brought a sense of stability and joy that I hadn't felt in years. We decided to take a trip together to celebrate our first anniversary as a couple. We chose a quiet, picturesque cabin in the mountains, a perfect getaway to reflect on our journey and plan our future. The trip was everything we hoped it would be, filled with laughter, deep conversations, and moments of pure bliss. It solidified our bond and reaffirmed our commitment to each other. Back home, life continued to improve. I found a balance between work, family, and my relationship with Nina. My sons were doing well, and our family dynamics had shifted into a new, healthier phase. The wounds from the past were healing, and we were all moving forward. One evening, while having dinner with Nina, she brought up the idea of meeting Lisa to discuss co-parenting strategies for Nathan. Although hesitant, I agreed that it might be beneficial for all of us to have a clear and open line of communication. Nina's suggestion was grounded in her genuine desire to support me and my sons, and I appreciated her perspective. We arranged a meeting with Lisa at a neutral location. It was awkward at first, but Nina's presence helped ease the tension. We discussed Nathan's future, his college plans, and how we could all support him. Lisa seemed more stable and focused on her recovery, and for the first time I saw a glimmer of the person I once loved. Despite everything, I felt a sense of closure and peace from that meeting. Nathan's first year of college flew by, and he excelled in his studies. He continued to visit his mother occasionally, and their relationship, while strained, slowly began to mend. Michael remained a constant pillar of support for both Nathan and me, and our bond as a family grew stronger. As for Nina and me, we continued to build our life together. We moved in and started planning a future that included marriage. Our love and respect for each other deepened every day, and I was grateful for the second chance at happiness that life had given me. Reflecting on the journey from betrayal to healing, I realized how far we had all come. The pain and anger that once consumed me had been replaced by a sense of peace and resilience. I had built a new life, not just for myself, but for my sons as well, and I was proud of the person I had become. Looking back, I wouldn't change a thing. Every challenge, every heartache had led me to this moment. With Nina by my side and my sons thriving, I knew that we could face whatever the future held. Life was unpredictable, but it was also full of possibilities, and I was ready to embrace them all. In the end, it wasn't just about moving on from Lisa's betrayal. It was about rediscovering who I was and finding the strength to build a new, fulfilling life. And in that journey, I found love, happiness, and a renewed sense of purpose. As I looked into the future, I felt nothing but hope and excitement for what was to come. One day, a few months after our trip to the cabin, Nina and I were sitting on our balcony, watching the sunset. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the nearby trees. It was one of those moments where everything felt just right. "Nina," I began, turning to face her, "I have something I want to ask you." She looked at me, her eyes filled with curiosity and love. "What is it, Mark?" I took a deep breath, feeling a rush of emotions. These past few years have been a roller coaster, but through it all, you've been my rock. You've supported me, loved me, and helped me rebuild my life. I can't imagine my future without you in it. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Opening it, I revealed a beautiful ring that sparkled in the fading light. "Nina, will you marry me?" Tears welled up in her eyes, and she smiled the brightest smile I'd ever seen. "Yes, Mark, yes, I will." We embraced. The weight of our past lifted as we looked forward to a future together. Our wedding was a simple, intimate affair, surrounded by close friends and family. Nathan and Michael stood by my side as my best men, and seeing their happiness and support meant the world to me. As Nina and I exchanged vows, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Life had brought us both through difficult times, but it had also given us the strength to overcome and find joy again. Our love was a testament to the power of resilience and the beauty of second chances. Our blended family continued to thrive. Nathan excelled in college, finding his passion and pursuing it with determination. Michael's career flourished, and he remained a steadfast support for his brother and me. Nina and I cherished every moment together, building a life filled with love, laughter, and shared dreams. Years later, as I sat on our porch, watching our grandchildren play in the yard, I reflected on the journey that had brought me to this place. The pain of Lisa's betrayal had long since faded, replaced by the warmth of new memories and the love of my family. Nina joined me, sitting beside me and taking my hand. "Look at them," she said, nodding toward the children. "They're so full of life and joy." I smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment. "Yes, they are. And it's all because of you, Nina. You brought light back into my life." She squeezed my hand, her eyes shining with love. "We did it together, Mark. We built this beautiful life together." As the sun set, casting a golden glow over our home, I knew that the journey had been worth it. Through the heartache and challenges, I had found a love that was true and enduring. And in that love, I found the strength to move forward and embrace the future with hope and excitement. Life was unpredictable, but it was also full of possibilities, and with Nina by my side, I was ready to face whatever came next, knowing that our love would carry us through.